Step out of the car and keep your hands where I can see
Officer, I
them.
am complying. Please tell me why I'm being stopped.
You don't ask the questions. Just answer what I ask you.
I understand. My wallet with my badge is on the seat. I'd like to clarify.
I said don't move. Do you hear me?
Officer, you're making a mistake.
The body camera on Officer Jason Harper's uniform showed him walking up to a black Audi sedan at 10:38 p.m. on a Tuesday night. What happened in the next 4 minutes would end his career, trigger a federal investigation, and reveal a truth that many people had long suspected but could now see with their own eyes. Because before those 4 minutes were over, Harper would pull the driver from the car, slam him onto the ground, and hit him hard enough to make blood appear. The driver was not a suspect. His name was Daniel Reynolds, the 48-year-old police chief of the whole department. Harper had no idea who he was stopping, and what he did next, recorded in clear, high-definition video, would become one of the most viewed police body camera clips in the country. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit subscribe. Stories like this need to be heard, and your support helps bring them to light. Daniel Reynolds was 48 and carried the weight of history on his shoulders. He was the city's first black police chief, a position he earned after 3 decades of service, many awards, and a reputation for honesty that even his critics could not deny. He had been appointed 2 years earlier during calls for change, accountability, and a new way of policing. Daniel had answered that call. He had put body cameras on every officer even though the union resisted, rewritten the rules about using force, created a civilian oversight board, and started mandatory training about bias and how to call in situations. He had attended community meetings where people shouted at him, questioned him, and demanded he fix problems that had been building for years. And he listened, really listened. His approach was simple. Police work should be about serving, not controlling. About trust, not fear. About treating every person, no matter their race, class, or situation, with respect. That Tuesday night, Daniel had been at the station late, reviewing reports about how officers used force the previous month. He was looking for patterns and officers who might need extra training. It was boring work, the kind that didn't make news, but it helped the department stay accountable. When he finally left just after 10 o'clock, he was tired. He had changed out of his uniform hours earlier, wearing jeans and a simple shirt. His badge and credentials were in his wallet on the passenger seat. His gun was locked in his office safe, as he always did when off duty. He was just another man driving home through the West District in his own car, a black Audi he had worked hard to buy, a small reward for years of dedication. He merged onto the boulevard, signaling, focused on getting home to his wife. He had no idea that in less than a minute, everything would change. Jason Harper was 25 and thought he was born for police work. He had graduated from the academy 6 months earlier. Young, fit, and aggressive, a trait his instructors had noticed but couldn't fully correct. His training reports said it clearly. Officer Harper has strong technical skills but needs better judgment and communication. He escalates situations too fast. In short, he was too quick to use force and too slow to think. But Harper had passed probation, barely. Tonight was his first solo patrol. No trainer with him. No one is checking his work. No one is telling him to slow down. He could finally do the job his way. He had been driving the West District for 2 hours, stopping cars, giving tickets, and enjoying the rush of power from the badge. The radio was quiet. Traffic was light. He was getting bored. Then he saw the black Audi, a fancy car with dark windows and expensive rims. In Harper's mind, it didn't belong in this neighborhood at this hour. The Audi changed lanes carefully, signaling. But Harper had already made up his mind. He muttered under his breath, barely heard on the body cam. "Let's see what you're hiding." He turned on the lights. The footage is sharp, clear, and unforgiving. Red and blue lights reflect on wet asphalt. The Audi slows immediately, signals again, and pulls to the side. Perfect compliance. Harper gets out of his cruiser and moves toward the driver's side, his hand near his weapon. His body is tense and aggressive, with sharp movements. He pounds on the window. It rolls down. Daniel Reynolds sits calmly, hands on the wheel. His voice is even. "Good evening, officer." Harper shines his flashlight directly in Daniel's face. "License and registration." "Of course," Daniel says, calm. "They're in my wallet on the passenger seat." "I'll reach for them slowly." "Don't move yet." Daniel freezes, hands back on the wheel. "I understand." Harper walks around the car slowly, shining the light inside, looking for anything he could use to justify what he had already decided to do. Then he returns. "Go ahead. Slow." Daniel reaches carefully, narrating his moves. "I'm reaching for my wallet now. It's right here on the seat." He pulls out his license and hands it through the window. Harper studies it, flashlight still on him. His tone changes, becoming mocking. "Daniel Reynolds. Nice name. You live around here, Daniel?" "I do." "Interesting. What do you do for work?" "I'm in law enforcement." Harper laughs, a short mocking sound. "Law enforcement. Right, like a security guard?" Daniel doesn't answer his insult. "Something like that." "Yeah." Harper leans in closer. "You know why I stopped you?" "No, officer, I don't." "Your left taillight is out." It wasn't. Every light was fine. The footage later showed that clearly. Harper orders Daniel to step out. Daniel's face shifts slightly, not fear, just the realization of what's coming. "May I ask why?" "Because I'm telling you to step out." "Officer, I haven't done any." "Step out now, or I'll remove you myself." Daniel exhales slowly. He opens the door and steps onto the pavement, hands raised slightly. Harper moves in too close, asserting dominance. "You got anything on you I should know about? Weapons? Drugs?" "No, officer." "Do you mind if I search you?" "I'd prefer not without probable cause." At that moment, Harper's behavior changes. His jaw tightens. His hand grabs Daniel's shoulder. "Turn around." Hands on the hood. "Officer, I'm not resisting, but I'd like to know what." Hands on the hood. Daniel follows instructions, placing his palms on the warm car. "There's a badge in my wallet. I'm a police officer. If you just—" "I don't care what you say you are." Daniel reaches for his back pocket. "My credentials are right." "Don't move." Harper grabs his wrist, twisting hard. "I'm not." Harper yanks Daniel backward, spins him, and shoves him against the car. Daniel's head snaps forward. "You don't listen, do you?" "Officer, please." Harper grabs his collar and belt and throws him to the ground. The body cam captures the sound, the groan, and the blood appearing on Daniel's lip. Daniel does not fight back. He lies still. Harper cuffs him tightly. "You're under arrest for resisting an officer." "I didn't resist," Daniel says quietly. "Shut up." 4 minutes. That's all it took to turn a normal traffic stop into a national story. Jason Harper stood over Daniel Reynolds, chest heaving, adrenaline still pumping. He reached for his radio. "Dispatch, one male in custody, resisted commands, requesting backup." He stepped back toward his cruiser, leaving Daniel cuffed and bleeding on the pavement. A passing driver slowed, pulled out a phone, and began recording. Harper shouted, "Keep moving." But it was too late. Witnesses had already captured everything. The body camera was still recording every second. When Harper returned to the Audi, he began searching it. Under the seats, in the glove box, and in the center console, he looked for anything that might justify what he had just done. He found Daniel's wallet on the passenger seat. He opened it and froze. Inside, under the driver's license, was an official police ID, Police Chief Daniel Reynolds, badge number 1. Authorized to command all officers in the department. Harper's hands shook. He looked from the ID to Daniel on the ground, then back to the ID. Oh God. Oh no. 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 He whispered, captured clearly by the body cam. Backup arrived 90 seconds later. Sergeant Maria Blake got out of her cruiser and immediately recognized the car. Then she saw Daniel on the ground. Her voice cut through the night. Harper, what did you do? Harper could not speak. He held up the ID, shaking. Maria rushed to Daniel, dropping to her knees beside him. Chief, sir, are you all right? I'm all right, Surgeon, but I need you to document everything. The stop, the assault, all of it. Yes, sir. Absolutely. She turned to Harper, fury in her eyes. Uncuff him. Now. Harper fumbled with the keys, hands trembling. Daniel sat up slowly, rubbing his wrists where the cuffs had bitten into his skin. Blood dripped from his lip onto his shirt. Maria helped him stand, voice quiet and apologetic. Sir, I am so sorry. Daniel looked at Harper, not with anger, but with disappointment. Officer Harper, he said quietly, you're suspended effective immediately. Turn over your badge and weapon to Sergeant Blake. Harper's face went pale. Chief, I didn't know. It shouldn't have mattered who I was. Those words hung in the air. Daniel turned to Maria. Make sure that body camera footage is secured, every frame, and call EMS. I want this documented medically. Yes, sir. Daniel walked back to his Audi carefully, sitting in the driver's seat with the door open, waiting for the ambulance. Harper stood frozen beside his cruiser, watching his career end in real time. The body camera kept recording. By morning, the footage had leaked. At first, it was whispers in the station, quiet talk in the locker room, and hushed conversations in the break room. Then someone sent it to a local reporter. Soon it spread to social media and national news. By noon, it was everywhere. The video looped. Harper dragging Daniel from the car, throwing him down, striking him, the blood. 4 minutes of violence that everyone understood. Headlines appeared immediately. Rookie cop assaults police chief. Body cam shows shocking police brutality. Chief attacked during traffic stop. Social media erupted. Think pieces were written within hours. The man who had fought to equip every officer with a body camera had just been saved by one. The mayor called a press conference, looking shaken. We are conducting a full investigation. This behavior does not represent our department or city values. Officer Harper has been suspended without pay, and we are cooperating with state and federal authorities. But the words felt hollow next to the footage because everyone had seen it. The unnecessary violence, the casual brutality, the officer who thought he could act without consequences. Civil rights organizations issued statements. The NAACP demanded immediate termination and criminal charges. The police union stayed silent. Daniel Reynolds didn't speak to the press that first day. He went to the hospital. Doctors treated his injuries. A split lip needing 4 stitches, bruised ribs, and contusions on his arms and back. The medical report documented everything. Injuries consistent with a physical assault. At home later, his wife held him quietly. They both knew this could happen. But knowing it and living it were very different. That night, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, ice pack on his jaw, and watched the news coverage of his own assault. It was surreal. He saw himself thrown to the ground and heard his voice. Calm, respectful, compliant, begging for dignity. He turned off the TV and sat silently. The Department of Justice began an investigation within 48 hours. Federal agents reviewed the body cam footage, interviewed witnesses, and examined Harper's training and disciplinary records. What they found was shocking. Harper had 3 complaints in 6 months for excessive force or unprofessional behavior. All were marked unfounded or unsubstantiated by supervisors. His training records showed he completed only 2 of 5 required de-escalation courses. He had failed scenario exercises, and instructors warned about his aggressive approach, but he was still allowed to patrol alone. The investigation also revealed texts from Harper's phone showing bias and contempt. Another night in the hood, going to rack up some stops. Pulled over 3 tonight. All fit the profile. They think they can talk back. I make sure they don't. These messages became evidence, undeniable proof. The federal civil rights case moved quickly. Officer Jason Harper was fired and charged with assault under color of law, depriving civil rights, and filing a false police report. Chief Daniel Reynolds filed a $30 million civil lawsuit against Harper and the city, claiming racial discrimination, excessive force, illegal detention, and failure to properly train officers. The city's lawyers reviewed the evidence. The case could not be defended. They offered a settlement. Daniel's lawyers refused. This isn't about money, his lead attorney told reporters. It's about accountability, making sure this never happens to anyone else. The trial began 8 months after the traffic stop. The courtroom was full. Media, activists, off-duty officers, and concerned citizens. Everyone wanted to see how it would end. Daniel sat at the plaintiff's table, calm and composed, wearing a dark suit. Harper sat across the aisle, looking smaller somehow, weighed down by what he had done. The prosecution's case was simple and direct. They played the body camera footage, 4 minutes, no edits, no commentary, just the raw events. The jury watched silently. When it ended, some jurors were visibly shaken. One even cried. The prosecutor spoke, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a case about a split-second decision in a dangerous situation. This is about a traffic stop that should have lasted 5 minutes and ended with a warning or ticket. Instead, it ended with a respected law enforcement professional, a man who has dedicated his life to serving this community, lying on the pavement, handcuffed, bleeding, and treated like a criminal because Officer Harper decided that's how he should be treated. And why? Because of a taillight that wasn't even out. Because Harper saw a black man in an expensive car and made assumptions. Because he could not imagine the person behind the wheel might be his superior in every way that mattered. The defense tried to say Harper made a mistake, acted honestly, and feared for his safety. But the footage made those arguments impossible. There was no threat, no weapon, no resistance, just a calm, compliant man being attacked by someone who should have been protecting him. On the 3rd day, Daniel took the stand. The prosecutor asked him to explain the stop from his perspective. He did so calmly, letting the facts speak. When Officer Harper struck you, what was your first thought? My first thought was that I hoped the body camera was working. Without it, no one would believe me. The courtroom was quiet. Even as police chief, with decades of service and credibility, I knew that if it came down to his word against mine, some people wouldn't believe me. They might think I did something to deserve it. That's the reality we live in. And that's why this case matters. The defense attorney cross-examined him briefly, but Daniel answered every question with the same calm precision. When he stepped down, the prosecution rested. The defense called Harper on the 4th day. He looked young, scared, and defensive. He still claimed he had been doing his job, that he didn't know, and that anyone would have done the same. The prosecution cross-examined carefully. Officer Harper, when you stopped Chief Reynolds' car, what made you suspicious? The car? The neighborhood? The time of night? What exactly about the car? It was expensive. Out of place. Out of place because... Harper hesitated. I don't know. You don't know. Let me ask this. If a white man in a business suit had been driving that same car in that same neighborhood at that same time, would you have stopped him? Maybe. I don't know. You don't know. But the body camera knows. They replayed the footage, highlighting Harper's words. Let's see what you're hiding. You don't listen, do you? Shut up. Every phrase showed bias, assumption, and contempt. The defense had no answer. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. When they returned, the foreperson read the verdict. In the matter of Reynolds versus Harper and the city police department, we find the defendants liable on all counts: racial discrimination, excessive force, unlawful detention, and intentional emotional distress. Compensatory damages, $15 million. Punitive damages, $15 million. Total, $30 million. The judge also issued a consent decree requiring the department to implement bias training for all officers, revise hiring and disciplinary procedures, create an independent civilian oversight board with subpoena power, require psychological evaluations for officers involved in use of force incidents. Harper sat motionless as the verdict was read. His attorney placed a hand on his shoulder. He didn't react. Daniel closed his eyes and took a slow breath. It wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure the cost of failure was too high to ignore. Jason Harper served 18 months in federal prison for assault under color of law. After his release, he moved across the country and disappeared from public life. He never gave interviews or statements. He carried the weight of his actions into whatever future he could build. His case became a teaching example in police academies across the country, a warning about bias, aggression, and the terrible results of treating people as threats just because of how they look. Daniel Reynolds used part of the settlement to start the Reynolds Foundation for Police Accountability, a nonprofit to fund independent oversight, bias training, and policy reform in departments nationwide. He returned to his job as chief and spent the next 3 years changing the department. The reforms required by the court were just the beginning. He created a culture where accountability was expected, not feared. Officers showing bias or using too much force faced real consequences. The community had a real voice in policing. Some officers resented him, saying he had made their work harder. But most understood. They had seen the footage. They had seen their chief bleeding on the ground. They knew if it could happen to him, the system was broken in ways they could no longer ignore. 2 years later, Daniel spoke at a national law enforcement conference. He stood at the podium, the scar on his lip barely visible, addressing a room full of chiefs, sheriffs, and federal agents. The night Officer Harper assaulted me, I had a choice. I could have used my position to hide it, to make it go away quietly, to protect the department's image. But that is not accountability. That is complicity. The badge does not make us better than the people we serve. It makes us responsible to them. And when we fail that responsibility, there must be consequences. Real ones. Not just words. $30 million is a lot. But do you know what is more expensive? The cost of lost trust. The cost of communities that see police as occupiers, not protectors. The cost of good officers leaving the profession because they are tired of being associated with those who abuse power. That is the real cost. We cannot afford it anymore. The audience applauded for a long time. 4 minutes of violence cost $30 million and forced a whole city to start over. The body camera from that October night has been watched over 80 million times. It is used in training, courtrooms, and community meetings, not for entertainment, but for education. It is a mirror showing a system that often protects the wrong people for the wrong reasons. Officer Harper saw a black man in a fancy car and made assumptions. He saw a chance to show power and took it. He never thought there would be consequences. But Chief Reynolds made sure there were. Not just for Harper, but for every department that looks the other way. For every system that protects officers instead of the people they are supposed to serve. The camera captured everything. Assumptions, violence, blood, and truth. And now we cannot look away. If this story made you think, share it. If it made you angry, act. If it made you want change, demand it. Stories like this matter only if they lead to action. Thanks for watching.